All right, we're in the last paragraph of the Maimer Adon Olam. And the Rebbe says some seemingly very shocking things over here about tragedy. How does he get into talking about tragedy? We're talking about, the Maimer talks about how God is a king before the spiritual was created, before anything was created. Even the potential to create the world. It was also a potential. God was a king even before there was a potential to create the world. There was a potential of a potential, if you want to. So that's what it means, Adon Olam. The God is the master of the universe, and the Shalah points out that Adon Olam is the gematria, the numerical value of Ein Sof, which he says means the essence of God. And in the Ein Sof, in the Adon Olam, God was a king before anything was formed. And when the Jewish people sound the shofar on Rosh Hashanah, as it arouses this level of God being a king before anything was formed. So the Rebbe, interestingly enough, he brings two metaphors that are brought from the great Chassidic masters. First was brought by the Baal Shem Tov, and the second is by Rabbi Levi Yitzchak. And both of these examples that are brought are their metaphors for the Jewish people and God. And in both of them, it ends up that the character that's supposed to be the metaphor for the Jewish people is very negative. The first example, like we said before, the first metaphor is a king's son, prince, that he wanders away from the castle and he gets all confused and forgets that he's a king and forgets the language. And it happens to be, after years and years, he wanders back to the palace, and he's just like a vagabond, and he's even forgotten the language of the kingdom. And he sees his father up in a high turret, and he calls out to him in desperation, because he suddenly realizes that he's the son of the king, but he forgot the language. So he screams out, "Ah!" And the king's son, who got all confused and ran away and forgot the language of his own country, that's the Jewish people. And the king is the father, and the screaming out is like the shofar. So it ends up sort of not nice, The Jewish people are far away. And the Chassidim made tremendous efforts only to say good things about the Jewish people, especially on Rosh Hashanah. The other example was given was Rabbi Levi Yitzchak example. Okay, Herschel. His example was that the king once got lost in the forest, and he put on a simple coat, took off his royal vestments because he didn't want anybody to recognize him. He put on the simple coat, and he went to the house of a wood chopper or something, and he saved him. He took him in, and then afterwards, this wood chopper sinned against the king. And the king was going to have him beheaded or whatever, and he said, "Your Majesty, remember this coat?" And the king said, "Oh yes, I do, right, I remember this coat. Take off your royal garments and put on this coat once a year." So what is he taking off the garments and putting on the coat for? His royal garments, not nice. And this person did a sin against the king. So it says the example is, the Jewish people, they've done sins, but they come. All right, I just remembered the mashal of Rabbi Levi Yitzchak. Okay, Herschel, it's not exactly as I said. Not as I said. It's not the king that takes off his garments. It's not the king, unless I heard it that way one time, but that's not the example is that once there was a king that went into a forest. Okay, Herschel, he went into a forest to hunt or whatever, and he got separated from his entourage, and he got completely confused where he was, and he went and he asked the people, "Where's the way back to the palace?" and the people had absolutely no idea what he was talking about until he found one wise peasant. And the peasant said to him, I'll show you the way back to the... He showed him the way back. He took the king back. He escorted the king back to the palace, and the king rewarded him by making him a minister and giving him fine garments and etc. Good, Herschel, you with me? And one day this minister did something wrong in the eyes of the king. And he was going to be brought in front of the king to be judged with corporal punishment, capital punishment. And he said, okay, but before you judge me, just allow me one thing. And he put on the garment, took off his royal garments that the king gave him, and put on the simple garment. And the king remembered now who he was and remembered the situation. And he said, okay, you can go. The same thing as the Jewish people. Every Rosh Hashanah, as we appear in front of the king, and we sound the shofar. The shofar is like the garment. That's the example. Okay? So it's not a nice example. What does it show? It shows the Jewish people are very simple. They're like these peasants, and they sinned in front of the king. And we want to remind the king that even though we sinned, you should still have mercy. So we put on our old garments that we did when we were a peasant, when we saved the king. Good? That's it. So says the Rebbe that it's a very good thing. Sounding the son of the king screaming, forgetting the language, means that sounding the shofar has to be above logic, and putting on the garments, taking off the garments means you have to take off all your garments of even Torah and mitzvahs, and don't think you can understand anything about God, and then you can really get to God's essence. That's what we said in the 9th paragraph. But in the 11th paragraph here, the Rebbe says, but nevertheless, we can say that these examples that Rebbe Levi Yitzchak Berditchev said was just a metaphor, etc. But it doesn't make any sense. Levi Yitzchak Berditchev only said good things about the Jews. Why would he pick such a negative metaphor? That the Jews had, they were like simple people, and they sinned in front of the king, and they put on their old garments to remind the king when they saw them. Why such a negative thing? They sinned in front of the king. So it must be that the negative is the way things are. It's not that there's something hidden inside of it. It must be that these negative things are really good. That's what the Rebbe said. That's what we just learned in chapter 11, right? Herschel.
Right. Doesn't seem so negative to me, though. I mean, maybe I missed it.
He according to Rabbi Levi Yitzchak Berditchev, he was an honorable minister in front of the king, and he sinned in front of the king. That's negative. And the king told him, and he, in order to save his life, took off his royal, beautiful garments. Not nice.
But who's perfect? Who doesn't sometimes sin? I mean, who knows sin?
If you look at the Jews in a positive way, you can say anything they did was not sins. They did it because they were ignorant. They did it because they had good intentions. They did it because of this. According to this, very good. But according to this metaphor, the servant of the king, this man who once served the king and once helped the king and became a minister. He was a minister, and he actually did sin, and the king actually was going to kill him, and he had to actually remove his beautiful garments and put on ugly ones. Okay. So those things are not good things.
He removed his arrogance and put back on his humility.
Whatever it is, arrogance. The Jewish people are arrogant, not a good thing. They have to remove their arrogance, not good. Okay. If I was Levi Yitzchak Berditchev and I wanted to impress everybody how nice I am and how much I love the Jews, I would say that the sounding of the shofar is a small child that his father lifts him up and is playing with him, and the son says, the baby says, "Father, I have written for you a beautiful song. How much I love you." And the son sings, "Daddy, I love you. Daddy, you're sweet. Daddy, there's no one that you can't be beat."
You need to record this.
Yeah, there it is. That's a good mashal. What has to be that he did a big sin, right? He's talking about a father. No, he didn't lift his son up and kiss him. It was a son that did so bad in front of his father. His father wanted to kill him. What type of a metaphor is that? You say, no, it's realistic. It's realistic. Jews do sins. But if you want to say good things about the Jewish people, don't mention their sins at all. What do you have to say? He sinned in front of the king, and the king wanted to kill him, and then because of it, right? It's a very negative through. In the end, it has a happy ending, right? Happy ending. But still, in order to get to this happy ending, Rav Levi Yitzchak Redijev had to do something which is totally opposite of what Rav Levi Yitzchak Redijev always did. Said only good things about the Jews.
Okay, so let's see what the Rebbe says.
So that's what we learned in the morning. That the Tzemach Tzedek says that these bad things have to be taken at face value. We don't understand what they are. We don't understand what the bad things are. We just don't understand them. It's not that there's some good hidden inside of them, like the story with Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, that they cursed his son. There must be that the bad things themselves, somehow or other, are such a level of good that we can't appreciate it, but it's really good. Says the Rebbe, what we want is that it should be a good. That good that's there should be revealed. That's what we want. But really, it's such intense good and such a different dimension of good that we haven't got the ability to accept it and receive it.
So we understand it as being something bad.
So we understand it as being something bad and painful, terrible. So that's why Rabbi Levi Yitzchak Redijev brought a thing that he sinned and he did bad and he had to take off his clothes and they put on old clothes. Because all of those things in the future we'll see are really best. Oh, we don't know how it is. I mean, now we pray that God shouldn't do those things. Good? That's what it means. Adon Olam Asher Molach, B'terem Kol Yitzur Nivra. That's what it means. That God is a king before anything was created. Mavur Kavod Kodesh Morichami. Admar, the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, explains in his mimer on this name. What do we say? It was in Tafshin Gimel. That's how we started it off. In Tafshin Gimel. Yes, Tafshin Gimel. Yes, 1943. Like we brought before in the beginning of the mimer, the Adon Olam is the gematria Ein Sof. This refers to a malchut, God's attribute of kingship, kamo shehu ba'atzmuto, as it is in God's essence. Ratzon amuchlat ba'atzmuto. It is the simple will of God in His essence. The Mavur Shamani explains the baratzon amuchlat, that in this, what's called ratzon, absolute will, it's not potential will, potential to be revealed. This is absolute will, which is in God's essence, ein shayach halat man klal. It is not relevant any arousal from below at all. And those our prayers and our whatever, don't touch that aspect of God. Aval, but Alpha became, nevertheless, calls all of this, it comes in a continuation of a previous mimer right before that. So it does here in this book. Yom Tov Shel Rosh Hashanah Shabbos, of a mimer which explains what happens when Rosh Hashanah falls on Shabbat, that we do not sound the shofar. Shabom of Or there explains what exactly is the sounding of the shofar on Rosh Hashanah and why we don't need to sound the shofar if Rosh Hashanah falls on Shabbat. But what is accomplished by the sounding of the shofar? Ha'avodah klalit, the general service of God, shekolelet kol prati avodot, a general service, a general servitude, devotion, total devotion to God, which includes in it all of the details of serving God the whole coming year. That's what the shofar is. makes God a king, and before every commandment we say, God is a king. Baruch atah Hashem, Melech Olam. The avodat Yisrael, that the service of the Jewish people, po'elet, it affects not only just building zer anpin, not only building up God's emotions, evoking, if we want to call it, God's emotions, like we said, when we learn Torah, God learns Torah. When we put on tefillin, God puts on tefillin. V'gam kol ha'bechinat ha'partzufim, and also all the different levels and all of the different arrangements of the sfirot of the whole order of Ishtalshalit. It's all changed when we do the commandments. But sounding the shofar not only arouses those things, lo rakshu moreret gam orein sof, before the tzimtzum. This level of God's revealed will, it's revealed to himself, so to speak. Or even this level where it's potentially able to reveal to the others. And not only the level of God's ratzon nelam, that's the level. The God's hidden will, that it's only revealed to himself. That it's only revealed to himself. So we have, let's say, so far we have three levels of will. How it comes down to us, actually revealed. Then we have how it's potential to be revealed. Then we have a potential to the potential, that it's only revealed to himself. Eliyaterim is when we sound the shofar, it not only arouses all these different levels and changes all the worlds and changes the whole order of God's priorities and etc. Not only that, the mitzad zeshi Yisrael mushrashim ba'atzmut, because the Jewish people are rooted in God's essence before the world was created, before God thought about creating the world. The Jewish people are rooted in God's essence. Therefore, when they sound the shofar, they are mamshichim, they draw down gam bechinat ratzon hamuchlat ba'atzmuso. They draw down even this level that is impossible to be aroused. When the Jewish people sound the shofar, and they do it with their essence, and because the Jewish people are rooted in God's essence, so they accomplish something which is totally impossible to accomplish. They arouse God's will as it is in God's essence, above the potential to be revealed, above the potential of will as it is just to himself, the essence of what God is. Bechinat Adon Olam, they arouse this level of Adon Olam, which is Ein Sof. No, so they arouse it very good. Says the Rebbe, that's not all. Hamshacha Zu, this arousal and revelation of God's will as it is before he created anything, before he created the spiritual, before he even thought about creating anything. Arousing this level, which is what we do when we sound the shofar with all of our being, our Jewish being. The revelation is lamata ba'olam asiyah gashmis. It's in this physical world. Who would believe it? Bezeh gufa. Judaism is based on two things. You hear Herschel. On one end, it's based on Abraham. On the other one, it's based on Moses. Abraham was really the father of Judaism. Moses was the one who received the Torah. Moses is not called one of the fathers of Judaism. There are three fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Moses is not one of them. Right? Moses, he is the leader. He is the first leader of the Jewish people. He is the redeemer of the Jewish people. He has one aspect of what Mashiach is going to have. Namely, he's going to teach everybody Torah. Make everybody do the commandments. You're listening, Herschel? So there's two aspects. On one hand, we have Abraham. Abraham's whole thing is working from below to above, not seeing any results whatsoever. Just serving God, and through all sorts of difficulties. God made him all sorts of difficulties and stumbling blocks and concealments and frustrations. Right? The opposite of motivation, demotivations, that any normal person would have just given up a long time ago. And Abraham went all the way through it. That's one aspect. There's another aspect also, which is revelation. God took us out of Egypt. God gave us manna from heaven, water from a rock. He gave us the Torah. He gave us clouds of glory. They protected us, took us to the land of Israel. God has given. So they have to have both of them together. It's a what do you want to call it? A two-way street. This is revealed on Rosh Hashanah. On Rosh Hashanah, we reveal God's essence. God's essence is two things. He wants us to serve Him, and He wants to reveal Himself in the world. That was what Adam's purpose was. Adam, first man, was born on Rosh Hashanah. And he was born with this incredible, amazing responsibility to do two things: to serve God, and by means of that, to make the world a better place, to make God revealed in the world. So Rebbe says that's what happens when you sound the shofar. On one hand, it's the ultimate service of God. We give ourselves, our essence, to the Creator, to our Creator. That's true service, not thinking about anything in return. And when we do that, that's when we get a return. That's when we get a return. Like there's the saying, I read a lot of these books from Professor Viktor Frankl. He says success and happiness, and he brings something else also, are things that must ensue. They cannot be pursued. If you pursue success and you pursue happiness, as if you're always pursuing, then it evades you. But if a person prepares himself, but he does what he's supposed to do, he's an honest person, he works honestly, he works hard, but he's not thinking about the results, then the results ensue. And that's what the Rebbe is saying here. If we serve God with all of our heart, with sounding the shofar, give ourselves over, then what will ensue automatically, if we don't think about any reward, we don't care about any reward. We're like Abraham. We're just serving God to serve God. Then there will ensue what God promised us and why He gave the created man in the first place, to make this world a perfect place. Ubezeh gufo be'inyanim gashmim. So it is in physical things. Nosef aladin Rosh Hashanah, in addition to the judgment of Rosh Hashanah, in spiritual things, drawing down godliness, being happy, being fulfilled. Mishpat Elokei Yaakov, it is a judgment for the God of Jacob. Hine Ikar Adin, the main judgment, the main result of the judgment on Rosh Hashanah is physical things. Rosh Hashanah, we are judging, we are praying for a physical thing. It should be a good world physically. There shouldn't be any more depression and sadness and hatred and contention and disappointments. The Yisrael Zochin Bedin Bebeis Inyanim. And the Jewish people, they merit, they are found innocent, they win the court case in both counts. Hein b'hashpa ruchnis, whether it is spiritual and or physical. B'bani chayom mizorim rivichi, there should be physical good, a revealed good. Not like this good that he was talking about before, that really the Holocaust was good and terrible things that happen are really good. That could be true. And especially after these things happen, as we should say that to ourselves. Right? It's for the good. This God is showing me everything happens from God, so it must be, it's very nice. It is, but why should we make all these tricks? Let's just have really good. The problem is a lot of times though, when God does give people a lot of good, it drives them crazy. It drives them crazy. It makes them right, think that they did it all themselves. I mean, the big example was the 6-day war. The Jews won the 6-day war in this most miraculous way, and it just made them even more egotistical in Israel. Right, it's all ours. We can give the Jerusalem back. We took it. We'll give it back. Ka'amor, the ikar inyan of Rosh Hashanah is hamshacha gashmis. The main thing of Rosh Hashanah is physical good. Pol Yeshua's B'kerav Oretz, like it says, God will make salvation in the world. Hamshachza Yeshua is drawing down this, all of the different ways, what it means, your salvations. Tiyeh ba'ofen depoil, it'll be in a way of actual. Lashon pu'ula mora al pu'ula gashmias. It'll be a result, means it'll be an actual physical result that everyone will be able to see. Even more than the word asiyah. When we say the word pu'ula, it's even more than the word asiyah in Hebrew. Pu'ula means something actual done. Cause, result. Asiya means you're doing something. Pu'ula means it's done. Something is done. Ubazeh gufa b'kerav oretz, and the results will be in the physical world actually. So all these ideas of the spirituality and Adon Olam and Ein Sof and the different levels of God's will, and that this is all wonderful and it's all true and it should be very inspiring to us and everything. But the main thing is physical world. The chickens should give eggs, the cow should give milk, right?
The cash machine should give
Right, but the cash machine should give cash.
the base cash machine.
What?
The base.
Yeah, but it should be actual physical. But we have to remember that these things have to ensue. We're not pursuing them. We're not praying on Rosh Hashanah so that the chicken should give eggs and that the cash machine should work, and that's not what we're praying for. Right? We're praying that God should make a good world. And we're praying that God should reveal His goodness in the world. And we're praying that there should be a world full of blessing and meaning. And as a result of that, one of the things is that we can throw in also, God, we're meaning with. We want meaning, we want blessing, we want this. I want the cash machine to work. God said, one second, let's just take it easy now. Go back a couple steps. Let's take little by little. Right? No, what we're saying is we want everything to work in the world. We want it to come from God. But tachton shein tachton lamata mimeno, it should be the low world, that there's nothing lower than it. That's what we want to have revealed. But if it doesn't come out that way, God forbid, we should understand that what did come out is exactly the way that God wants it now. Right? Maybe we weren't ready, maybe who knows what. Ubapashtos was simply meaning that every single Jew, nichtav and nechtam b'sefer shel tzadikim, that every Jew should be written and sealed in the book of the righteous, of totally righteous people. Ki amei kulon tzadikim, because that's what the Jews are. Every Jew deep down is a totally righteous, holy person that only wants to do what the Creator is creating him for. Like it says, La'alter l'chaim, immediately we should be judged for good. La'alter l'geula, and immediately God should redeem all of the Jewish people. Kol echad v'echad Israel, each and every Jew will go out of his exile, l'geula, to total redemption. And as I gave you the example 100 times, and it's an example that the Rebbe gives. What is this idea of redemption? That if you take a twig, an apple tree, and you stick it in the ground, a twig, and you put a bucket over it. So it lives, it doesn't die, it lives, but it has no leaves on it, and it's almost dead. But it's not, right? It's not. It's there, and all of a sudden one day you decide you're going to take the bucket off. You take the bucket off of this, and suddenly it gets rain, and it gets sunshine, and it gets fertilizer, and it gets air, and it gets this, and it starts to grow. And when it grows, the whole new things you never dreamed were there before. All sorts of leaves with flowers, with fragrance, and then fruits with nourishment. The fruits have seeds in them, the potential for birth. Who would dream that there was such potential there? So that's the idea of geula, of the future redemption. God will remove this bucket of egotism and confusion or whatever that we have. Like it says, He will circumcise our hearts so that we will be in touch with the good of God, the rain and the sun and the wind and all the things that make a person grow. Can make a person grow. That's what makes a plant grow. But a person is grown by when he feels love, when he feels it is important, when he really feels that God loves him. Then what happens is we have new potential we never dreamed we had. Things inside of us that you could examine it for all you wanted to. You would never dream that inside of this twig were really fruits and things like that. Same thing, we'd never dream. That's called the geula, the future redemption, that the good hidden in everything will be revealed. Geula mit Yisrael, like it says in the Haftorah of Rosh Hashanah, Kahal Gadol Yeshiva Ohr. It says a great masses of Jews will return to the land of Israel. Ubizeh nichlal kol echad v'echad of Israel, every single Jew will go out of exile. Kamavur Barucha, and the Haftorah of Rosh Hashanah. B'simcha Gedola, and there'll be great happiness. Like we said before, Shachtarat HaMelech, that crowning the king on Rosh Hashanah, or whenever you crown the king, but we're talking about Rosh Hashanah, it has to be with great joy. You have to be doing it with great joy. You're crowning the king. Simchat Olam HaRosham, like it says, eternal joy on their heads. Begula mitit shlema, by the total and true redemption by means of Mashiach Tzidkenu, bekarov mamash, speedily now. Ay 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 la 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 yochda yedda da 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 ya 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 da ya na ya perelele ya da 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 ay ya la 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 ba ya ya la ya da da perelele ya da 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 la ya 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 la 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 ay 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 ba ya la 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 ya pa la 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 ya 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 yo Shana Tova u'matuka to all of our listeners. May God bless you all with a lot of good news and with only good news. And the best news of all, Mashiach now. Yechi Adonenu Morenu V'Rabbeinu Melech HaMashiach La'olam Vo'ed. Read the Maimorim of the Rebbe. Read the Sichot of the Rebbe. Lubavitcher, read the directions of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. Beautiful. You'll be so happy. It will reveal. It's like water, rain coming down on a dried up twig. Sunlight, nothing like it. Makes us grow. Air, nourishment to the tired, dried up Jewish souls. We have no idea how much good, how many fruits there are waiting inside of us to be revealed. God bless you all. When the shofar is sounded this year, pray for Mashiach now.